What if I told you that the single biggest reason traders fail has nothing to do with their strategy, but everything to do with a strange paradox? That the human brain is biologically wired to be terrible at losing and even worse at winning? It allows the pain of a small, manageable loss to fester into a catastrophic wound, holding on for days out of a desperate hope. Yet it snatches a small, fleeting profit in minutes out of an intense fear, unable to endure the anxiety of being right. We become brave when we should be fearful, and fearful when we should be brave. This is the universal plague of the trader, cutting profits short while letting losses run. This destructive behavior is not born from foolishness or a lack of knowledge. It is a direct result of the deeply ingrained wiring of our own minds, a wiring that runs contrary to every principle of successful trading. And today, we will dissect this self-destructive instinct through the story of Oliver, a trader who knew exactly what to do, but found himself psychologically incapable of doing it, and his desperate search for a way to rewire his own brain. The perfect trader when on paper. Our story begins in a quiet, organized apartment in Amsterdam, Netherlands, a city known for its calm and artistic atmosphere. This was the workspace of Oliver, a freelance writer in his late 30s with a meticulous and thoughtful mind. He wasn't drawn to the Forex market for the thrill, but for the intellectual challenge. He was fascinated by the idea of analysis, of forming a hypothesis and testing it against the reality of the market. Oliver was the picture of a trader who did everything right at the start. He spent years in serious study. He created an impressive and detailed trading plan, a written document that was his personal constitution. It specified everything clearly. Strategy, trend following on the H4 and daily charts, based primarily on price action. Risk management, never risking more than 1% of his account on a single trade. Risk-reward ratio, only taking setups that offered a minimum risk-reward ratio of 1 to 3. On paper, he was the perfect trader. He knew he should let his profits run to their target and should cut his losses the moment they hit his stop loss. He could explain these principles to others with fluent clarity, but knowing and doing, he would soon discover, were two entirely different worlds. The two-sided trade. One Monday afternoon, Oliver sat at his clean desk. He performed his routine analysis, and on the day, two opportunities appeared almost simultaneously. Opportunity number 1. He spotted a strong short signal on the USD-CHF pair. The chart showed a bearish engulfing pattern at a key resistance level. It matched his plan perfectly. He planned to sell with a stop loss above the resistance and to take profit at the next support level, offering a perfect 1 to 3 RR. Opportunity number 2. At the same time, he saw a beautiful long signal on GBP-JPY. The price had pulled back to a support level and a moving average, forming a perfect pin bar. The RR was also 1 to 3. He entered both trades according to his plan, with discipline. And that was the beginning of the real battle. A battle fought not on the charts, but within his own mind. The journey of a winner and a loser. Trade A, EUR-JPY, the winner. Shortly after Oliver went long, the price shot up rapidly. His account turned a bright, healthy green. He felt good. But then a new feeling began to creep in. Anxiety. He sat staring at the fluctuating P and L. Plus $100, plus $80, plus $120. Every time the price pulled back slightly, his heart raced. Is it going to reverse? Am I going to lose all of this profit? These thoughts swirled in his head. When the profit reached $150, only halfway to his planned target, he couldn't take it anymore. The fear of this real, tangible profit vanishing was more powerful than his belief in his plan. He clicked the close order button, snatching the small profit. He felt an immense sense of relief, but that relief was short-lived, because afterward the price continued to rally. and it ran precisely to his original 1 to 3 target. He had left half the money on the table, simply because he could not endure the anxiety of being rich. Trade B, USDCHF, the loser. Conversely, his USDCHF short trade went against him almost immediately. The price slowly began to climb, moving against his position. His account showed a red negative number, but his reaction was completely different. He didn't feel anxiety, he felt hope. It's just a pullback to retest the resistance, he told himself. It has to go down, according to my analysis. The price continued to climb, getting dangerously close to his preset stop loss. At this point, he was supposed to let the system work, but he did something different. He felt the imminent pain of accepting the loss, and he couldn't stand it. Just a little more room, just to let it breathe, he muttered, moving his mouse to drag the stop-loss order further away. He had just transformed from a trader into a gambler. He wasn't managing risk anymore, he was praying. In-depth documentary, Prospect Theory and the Asymmetric Brain. Oliver's completely contradictory behavior is a perfect illustration of a revolutionary theory in economics and psychology. Prospect Theory, developed by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. This theory explains why humans make irrational decisions under risk, and it is the very heart of why we cut profits short and let losses run. The core of the theory is the value function, an S-shaped curve that shows how we feel about gains and losses, with our current state, the reference point, at the center. This curve reveals two incredible truths. 1. Loss. Aversion, the curve on the loss side, domain of losses, is about twice as steep as the curve on the gain side, domain of gains. This means that the emotional pain of losing $100 is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining $100. This is why when Oliver's USDCHF trade went negative, he felt overwhelming pain. His brain will do anything to avoid the pain of realizing that loss. Moving the stop loss is an emotionally driven decision to escape this pain, hoping it will return to the reference point. Interestingly, when we are in the domain of losses, holding a losing trade, our behavior switches from being risk-averse to risk-seeking. We are willing to risk a much larger loss for the chance that it will come back to break even and erase the pain. This is why Oliver could endure a loss for days. He was gambling with hope. 2. The certainty effect. Conversely, the curve on the gain side is concave, which shows that we feel the most pleasure from the first part of a gain, and the pleasure diminishes as the gain gets larger, diminishing marginal utility. This creates a phenomenon called the certainty effect. The human brain places an irrationally high value on a 100% certain gain over a probable but uncertain larger gain. When Oliver's GBP-JPY trade was at plus $150 profit, he was facing a choice. Option A, close now and take a certain plus $150 profit. Option B, hold for the plus $300 target, but with the uncertainty that the price could reverse. His brain, now in the domain of gains, switched into an extremely risk-averse mode. The fear of losing the profit he already had in hand, the pain of a gain turning into a loss, was far more powerful than the desire for more profit. He therefore chose to lock in the certain profit to eliminate the anxiety of uncertainty. This is why he could only endure being rich for less than 5 minutes. In summary, prospect theory shows that we have two selves when we trade. When we are losing, we become risk-seeking gamblers, but when we are winning, we become risk-averse cowards. This psychological asymmetry is the very architecture of failure that most traders face. The journey of two orders. Day after day, Oliver's two trades remained open in his mind, even if one was closed on the platform. Trade A, GBP-JPY, the abandoned winner. After Oliver closed his trade early, the price of GBP-JPY continued its relentless climb. It blew past his original 1 to 3 target with ease and kept going. He watched it with a toxic mix of pride for being right and profound regret for leaving a fortune on the table. Trade B. USDCHF, the nurtured loser. Meanwhile, his losing USDCHF trade remained like a malignant tumor in his account. He had moved the stop loss 5 times. Every morning he would wake up with the hope that today is the day it turns around. And every night he would go to bed with disappointment. The loss had now grown larger than all the profits he had made in the entire previous month combined. It became a heavy psychological burden. He couldn't analyze new opportunities with a clear mind because his entire focus was on praying for this one flawed trade to come back. The day of collision. The end came on a Friday afternoon. The GBP-JPY trade he had exited early had, at its peak, reached a profit of 1 to 5 his initial risk. At the same time, his open USDCHF trade was now sitting at a loss of minus 5 times his initial risk. He sat at his desk, doing the mental math. If he had followed his plan, he would have made plus 3R from GBP-JPY and lost minus 1R from USDCHF, ending the week with a healthy net profit of plus 2R. But in reality, he had only made plus 1.5R from GBP-JPY and was now holding a minus 5R loss on USDCHF. The painful truth hit him. His 2 emotionally driven decisions had turned a profitable week into a disastrously losing one. Finally, he could not bear the pain any longer. He gave up. He clicked the button, manually closing the massive losing USDCHF trade. The acceptance. That loss didn't blow up his account, but it shattered his confidence in himself. He accepted for the first time that having excellent technical knowledge was meaningless if his mind was still being run by these flawed, primal instincts. He stopped trading, and he began a new journey. The journey to rewire his own brain. In-depth documentary, Building Discipline Against Instinct. Overcoming the deeply ingrained behaviors driven by prospect theory is possible, but it requires the conscious creation of systems and tools to counteract the brain's automatic programming. Here are the techniques professionals use to rewire their brains. 1. Automating discipline. The emotional brain is always faster and more powerful than the logical brain in moments of stress. Therefore, the best solution is to remove the decision from your hands during those moments. Hard stop and take profit orders. This is the most critical tool. Place your stop loss and take profit orders immediately after entering a trade, and then vow never to touch them. Treat them as a contract you made with your calm, rational self, a contract that your emotional self has no authority to break. The set and forget philosophy. After the order is placed and the parameters are set, practice walking away from the screen. The act of constantly watching the P and L flicker is an open invitation for your emotional brain to take over. Letting the plan play out without interference is the ultimate expression of trust in your process. 2. Journaling for exposure. Our brains are masters of rationalization and forgetting past pain. A trading journal is the tool that forces you to confront the undeniable truth. Track money left on the table. Create a new column in your journal with this title. Every time you cut a profit short, log how much more you would have made if you had stuck to the original target. Track excess loss. Conversely, every time you move your stop loss, log how much more you lost compared to your original plan. Over time, you will see the true cost of these behaviors in hard numbers. This data is powerful evidence you can use to convince your logical brain to change the behavior. 3. Mental rehearsal. Olympic athletes use visualization to train their responses under pressure. Traders can do the same. Visualize winning. Before trading, take 5 minutes, close your eyes, and imagine a trade moving towards your take profit. Feel the urge to close it early, and then visualize yourself calmly letting that feeling pass and allowing the trade to continue. Visualize losing. Similarly, imagine a trade moving towards your stop loss. Feel the pain and the urge to move it, and then visualize yourself calmly and professionally accepting the loss as part of the business. This mental practice creates new neural pathways, making the correct response feel more familiar and automatic in a live situation. The new victory. Months later, Oliver returned to the market with a transformed mindset. He saw a perfect setup on USD CAD. He entered the trade, placed his stop loss and take profit at a 1-to-3 ratio, and he walked out of the room. He came back hours later. The trade had hit his stop loss. He felt a flicker of disappointment, then nodded in acceptance, logged the result, and looked for the next opportunity. The next day, he entered another trade according to his plan, placed his stop loss take profit, and went about his day. When he returned, the trade had hit his take profit target beautifully. He felt a sense of satisfaction, but no euphoria. At that moment, Oliver realized he had finally achieved his goal. He had successfully rewired his brain. His emotional reaction to an acceptable loss and a planned win was now almost identical. He was no longer a slave to prospect theory. He had transcended it and stepped into true professionalism. And that was Oliver's journey. A story that exposes the truth that a trader's greatest enemy may not be the market, but the powerful biological wiring within our own brains. Learning to recognize and counteract the flawed instincts for handling gains and losses is one of the most critical skills you must master. I want to invite you to share your story in the comments below. Have you struggled with the feeling of needing to cut a profit short or wanting to let a loser run? And what techniques or mindset shifts have you found to manage it? Your shared experience could be the key that helps another trader finally rewire their own brain. Finally, if Oliver's story was helpful to you today, or if it made you think, your like is the greatest encouragement for us to continue creating this kind of in-depth content. And so that you don't miss out on the next in-depth documentary and trading psychology analysis, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. For today, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.